Hello, everybody. Today's book is Sneetches and The Sneetches and Other Stories by Dr. Seuss. I'm going to bring it down a little so that I can rest it here while I read it. It's written and illustrated by Dr. Seuss. Okay, the Sneetches. Now, the star-belly Sneetches had bellies with stars. The plain-belly Sneetches had none upon theirs. Those stars weren't so big. They were really so small, you might think such a thing wouldn't matter at all. But because they had stars, all the star-belly Sneetches would brag, "We're the best kind of Sneetch on the beaches." With their snoots in the air, they would sniff and they snort. "We'll have nothing to do with the plain-belly sort." And whenever they met some, when they were out walking, they'd hike right on past them without even talking. When the star-belly children went out to play ball, could a plain belly get in the game? Not at all. You only could play if your bellies had stars, and the plain belly children had none upon theirs. Those poor kids. When the star-belly Sneetches and had Frankfurter roasts or picnics or parties or marshmallow roasts, they never invited the plain-belly Sneetches. They left them out cold in the dark on the beaches. They kept them away, never let them come near, and that's how they treated them year after year. "My friends," he announced in a voice clear and keen. Oh, sorry, I missed a page. Then one day, it seems, while the plain-belly Sneetches were moping and doping alone on the beaches, just sitting there wishing their bellies had stars, a stranger zipped up in the strangest of cars. "My friends," he announced in a voice clear and keen, "my name is Sylvester Monkey McBean, and I've heard of your troubles. I've heard you're unhappy, but I can fix that. I'm the fix-it-up chappie. I've come here to help you. I have what you need, and my prices are low, and I work at great speed, and my work is 100% guaranteed." Sounds like a snake oil salesman, doesn't it? Then quickly, Sylvester Monkey McBean put together a very peculiar machine, and he said, "You want stars like a star-belly Sneetch? My friends, you can have them for $3 each. Just pay me your money and hop right aboard." So they clambered inside. Then the big machine roared, and it clonked, and it bonked, and it jerked, and it burked, and it bopped them about, but the thing really worked. When the plain-belly Sneetches popped out, they had stars. They actually did. They had stars upon theirs. Look how happy they look. Then they yelled at the ones who had stars at the start, "We're exactly like you. You can't tell us apart. We're all just the same now, you snooty old smarties. And now we can go to your Frankfurter parties." "Good grief," groaned the ones who had stars at the first. "We're still the best Sneetches, and they are the worst." "But now, how in the world will we know," they all frowned, "if which kind is what, or the other way round?" Then up came McBean with a very sly wink, and he said, "Things are not quite as bad as you think. So you don't know who's who? That is perfectly true, but come with me, friends. Do you know what I'll do? I'll make you again the best Sneetches on beaches, and all it will cost you is $10 eaches." What do you think he's going to do? "Belly stars are no longer in style," said McBean. "What you need is a trip through the star-off machine." This wondrous contraption will take off your stars, so you won't look like Sneetches who have them on theirs. And that handy machine, working very precisely, removed all the stars from their tummies quite nicely. Boy, he's sneaky, isn't he? Then with snoots in the air, they paraded about, and they opened their beaks and they let out a shout. We know who is who, now there isn't a doubt. The best kind of Sneetches are Sneetches without. Then, of course, those with stars all got frightfully mad. To be wearing a star now is frightfully bad. Then, of course, old Sylvester McMonkey McBean invited them into his star-off machine. Then, of course, from then on, as you probably guess, things really got into a horrible mess. All the rest of that day and on those wild screaming beaches, the fix-it-up machine chappie kept fixing up Sneetches, off again, on again, in again, out again. Through all the machines they raced round and about again, changing their stars every minute or two. They kept paying money, they kept running through, until neither the plane nor the starbellies knew whether this one was that one, or that one was this one, or which one was what one, or what one was who. And this old guy's just laughing all the way to the bank, isn't he? There he goes. Then when every last cent of their money was spent, the fix-it-up chappie packed up and he went. And he laughed as he drove in his car up the beach. They never will learn. No, you can't teach a Sneetch. But McBean was quite wrong. I'm quite happy to say that the Sneetches got really quite smart on that day. The day they decided that Sneetches are Sneetches and no kind of Sneetch is the best on the beaches. That day all the Sneetches forgot about stars and whether they had one on or not upon theirs. Second story, the Zacks. One day, making tracks in the prairie of Prax, came a north-going Zacks and a south-going Zacks. And it happened that both of them came to a place where they bumped, where they stood, foot to foot, face to face. Look here now, the north-going Zack said, I say, you are blocking my path, you are right in my way. I'm a north-going Zacks, and I always go north. Get out of my way now, and let me go forth. Who's in whose way? Snapped the south-going Zacks. I always go south, making south-going tracks. So you're in my way, and I ask you to move, and let me go with in my south-going groove. Then the north-going Zacks puffed up his chest with a pride. I never, he said, take a step to the side, and I'll prove to you that I don't change my ways if I have to keep standing here 59 days. And I'll prove it to you, yelled the south-going Zacks, that I can stand here in the prairie of Prax for 59 years, for I live by a rule that I learned as a boy back in south-going school. Not an inch to the west, not an inch to the east. Never budge, that's my rule, never budge in the least. I'll say, stay here, not budging, and I can and I will, if it makes you and me and the whole world stand still. Well, of course, the world didn't stand still. The world grew. In a couple of years, the new highway came through, and they built it right over those two stubborn Zacks and left them there standing, unbudged in their tracks. Not very smart to be stubborn, is it? Here's our third story. It's called Too Many Daves. Did I ever tell you that Mrs. McCabe had 23 sons and she named them all Dave? Well, she did, and that wasn't a smart thing to do. You see that when she wants one and calls out, "You who, come into the house, Dave," she doesn't get one. All 23 Daves of hers come on the run. This makes things quite difficult at the McCaves, as you can imagine, with so many Daves, and often she wishes that when they were born, she had named one of them Bodkin Van Horn, and one of them Who's Foos, and one of them Snim, and one of them Hotshot, and one of them Sonny Jim, and one of them Shadrach, and one of them Blinky, and one of them Stuffy, and one of them Stinky, and another one Put Put, and another one Moonface, and another one Marvin O'Gravel Balloonface, and one of them Ziggy, and one of them Soggy Muff, and one Buffalo Bill, and one Buffalo Buff, and one of them Sneepy, and one of them Weepy Weed, and one Paris Garters, and one Harris Tweed, and one of them Sir Michael Carmichael Zut, and one of them Oliver Bolivar Butt, and one of them Zanzibar Buck McFate, but she didn't do it, and now it's too late. So don't name all your children the same name. That's the moral of that story. And for the final and fourth story is, what was I scared of? Well, I was walking in the night and I saw nothing scary, for I have never been afraid of anything, not very. Have you ever been afraid of the dark? I have. That I was deep within the woods when suddenly I spied them. I saw a pair of pale green pants with nobody inside them. I wasn't scared, but yes, I stopped. What could those pants be there for? What could a pair of pants at night be standing in the air for? And then they moved, those empty pants. They kind of started jumping, and then my heart, I must admit, it kind of started thumping. So I got out fast as I could go, sir. I wasn't scared, but pants like that, I did not care for, no, sir. That would be really scary. After that, a week went by. Then those dark night in Greenwich, I had to do an errand there and fetch some Greenwich spinach. Well, I had fetched the spinach and I started back through town when those pants raced round a corner and they almost knocked me down. I lost my Greenwich spinach, but I didn't even care. I ran for home, believe me. I had really had a scare. Now, bicycles were never made for pale green pants to ride them, especially spooky pale green pants with nobody inside them. The next night, I was fishing for doubt trout in River when those pants came rowing toward me. Well, I started to shiver, and by now I was so frightened that I tell you, but I hate to, I screamed and rowed away and lost my hook and line and bait too. I ran and found a brickle bush. I hid myself away. I got brickles in my britches, but I stayed there anyway. I stayed all night, the next night too. I'd be there still, no doubt. But I had to do an errand, so the next day I went out. I had to do an errand. I had to pick a peck of snide in a dark and gloomy snide field that was almost 9 miles wide. I said, I do not fear those pants with nobody inside them. I said I had said those words. I said them, but I lied them. Then I reached inside a snide bush, and next thing that I knew, I felt my hand touch someone, and I'll bet that you know who. And there I was, caught in the snide, and in the dreadful place, those spooky empty pants and I were standing face to face. I yelled, help! I screamed, I shrieked, I yelled, I yowled, I cried. Oh, save me from these pale green pants with nobody inside. But then a strange thing happened. Why, those pants began to cry. Those pants began to tremble. They were just as scared as I. I never heard such whimpering, and I began to see that I was just as strange to them as they were strange to me. I put my arm around their waist, and I sat right down beside them. I calmed them down, poor empty pants with nobody inside them. What does that kind of teach you? Not to be scared, right? And now we meet quite often, those empty pants and I, and we never shake or tremble. We both smile and we say hi. Lots of good lessons in that book, 4 good lessons. So remember to subscribe to our channel and hit the like button and the notification bell so you get reminded of when we put new books on. I think we put on at least 3 books a week. So hope you enjoyed it.